Well, as we've been reporting, the US have announced new military assistance for Ukraine. They promised an extra $713 million to the country to help with its defensive capabilities. Joining me now is Louise Jones, who's the head of intelligence at McKinsey Intelligence Services. So, Louise, what do we know about this funding and how could it help Zelensky?
Yeah, so this is a really important announcement and much needed aid, very welcome for the government in Kiev. So there's sort of two main components here to the aid package. You've got just over $300 million has been earmarked just as cash to go to the Ukrainian government to spend as it sees fit. This is really good for them because they'll be able to identify where exactly they need to reinforce most. So having that under their control, they'll be really welcome to them. There's also $165 million worth of non-US made ammunition, and all that basically means is ammunition that is compatible with the Ukrainian military equipment, which is originally Soviet-made or Russian-made. And then the bulk of this is actually going not to Ukraine directly, but it's going to some countries, members of NATO, used to be members of the former Soviet Union. And why this is useful is they have a lot of ex-Soviet kit. So this is the kind of a kit and equipment that is useful to Ukraine. Ukrainian military is very familiar with how it works. They can repair it easily. So what it means is the countries such as Poland can donate this equipment to Ukraine, and this therefore compensates them to do so.
Mm-hmm. OK, so how are the weapons going to help the current situation in the country? What's happening with the war, and where do you think they could go?
So if we talk a little bit about some of the weapons that are being sent by the US, so there's a range of equipment, but predominantly they're focusing on some artillery pieces and things like that, looking at things that are able to deliver an effect over a long distance.
We can show those guns. Let's show those guns, Amy. Yeah, so what is this?
Yeah, so this is a M198 howitzer, so it's a 155mm gun. And this is actually a slightly older piece of equipment that we think is being sent by the US, range of around 50 miles, more or less, depending on a few factors. And what this means is they can train up the Ukrainians to be able to use this, although there will be some differences between this and Ukrainian kit. There will be some similarities as well, which will be useful as they start to look at having more longer range battles. If we're able to go back to the map, then we can talk through exactly what that means, because what you'll see here is, whilst there's been a lot of focus down on the southeast at Russian activity down here in Mariupol, there's a small pocket of Ukrainian defenders still holding out. But where the Ukrainians might want to focus next is actually more on the northeast, in and around Kharkiv. This is where we've seen a bit of activity so far. Potentially what they're hoping to do is to split the northern and southern Russian axes in half and isolate both sides from each other. Where Russia has previously announced an intent is to build this land bridge along the south of Ukraine to continue to capture Odessa. Now, this would be a pretty ambitious move for Russia. Not sure that they'd be able to do so, but they have stated intent. This would mean that they've got control of Mariupol and Odessa. These are really key ports for Ukraine, very vital to the Ukrainian economy, and it would be a real blow if Russia was able to achieve this. What we also see is the focus is now switched to this southeast, as it's quite flat terrain, and it really favours much longer range than we've seen previously. And we've already started to see testing some of the limits of what Ukraine is able to achieve. A strike at an oil depot took place recently up in Bryansk. And this is interesting, although not directly claimed by the Ukrainians, it looks likely that it was a Ukrainian short-range ballistic missile that was able to reach, more than 70 miles inside of Russia. Russia's also been showing off its long-range capabilities. It's been conducting strikes in the centre of Ukraine and also out to the far west, looking to hit railway stations, anything that it thinks is being used to move military equipment. So what we'll see, I think, is although fighting recently has been very close on the front line, particularly in and around Kiev, what we're actually starting to see is the theatre of war has really expanded, and they're really relying on that long-range artillery.
OK, Louise, fascinating stuff. Thank you.